So, have you ever really thought about what it takes to split a massive company in two? It's not just about a press release and a fancy new logo. It's way more like complex corporate surgery, a super high-stakes operation where every single incision, every move is absolutely critical. Today, we are scrubbing in to deconstruct the secret playbook for how it's all done. Let's get into it. Check this out. 3 months of planning, just crushed down to less than 3 weeks. And this isn't some made-up number. This is a real result from a real Fortune 500 company, a company we're going to call RemainCo. So how on earth did they pull off this incredible feat of speed and efficiency while navigating a huge corporate split? Well, that's the billion-dollar question, and we're about to break down the answer. All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to walk through the 5 critical phases of this playbook. First, we'll talk about the secret planning that happens before anyone even knows a deal is coming. Then, how you actually budget for something this huge. Next, assembling the A-team to pull it all off. Fourth, the massive kickoff meeting. And finally, what goes down in that critical first 30 days of action. Okay, let's dive into phase 1, a plan before the announcement. Now, what's really fascinating about this is that the most successful corporate splits, well, they actually begin in secret. The entire foundation for success is laid long before the deal ever becomes public knowledge. So, to run this secret operation, you need a command center. In the world of corporate splits, this is called the DMO, which stands for Divestiture Management Office. You got to think of it as the mission control for the entire separation, guiding every single activity from the very start to the absolute finish. Let's circle back to our RemainCo example. They were facing this incredibly aggressive timeline to separate a business that was just deeply tangled up in all their global operations. So what was their secret weapon? Well, they identified a small core group of experts, put them all under a strict non-disclosure agreement, and got a massive head start on planning before the announcement even hit the news. With that secret plan underway, we can move into our second phase, budgeting the separation. Because once the plan is in motion, the very next question from leadership is always the big one. You guessed it, how much is this massive corporate surgery actually going to cost? Answering this question early and answering it accurately is absolutely critical. A major miscalculation here can seriously threaten the entire deal before it even really gets started. No pressure, right? So how do you even begin to guess the cost? Well, there are really 2 main ways to go about it. The top-down method uses benchmarks from past deals. A rule of thumb might be that IT separation costs about the same as the annual IT operating budget. The other way is bottom-up, where every single team has to detail their specific needs, and then you roll it all up into one grand total. Honestly, most companies use a mix of both to get the clearest possible picture. And what exactly are they budgeting for? It pretty much breaks down into 2 main buckets. You've got your labor costs, that's the time for your own employees, plus the expensive consultants and contractors you'll need to bring in. And then there's the non-labor costs. Everything from new computer servers and software licenses to travel expenses and training for the teams. And just to put this all into perspective, let's look at the scale we're talking about. Based on a sample from our source material, a major separation could have a one-time cost of over $46 million. Now, this is just an example, but it really highlights the immense financial scope. That's exactly why getting this number right from the very beginning is so critical. All right, with a budget hopefully in place, we move to the third and, you could argue, the most important phase, assembling the execution team. Look, you can have all the money in the world, but without the right people, the whole project is basically doomed from the start. Building this team isn't random. It's a really methodical process. First, you figure out what skills you actually need. Second, and this one is a really big deal, you have to rationalize your existing projects to free people up. Third, you build the team structure. Fourth, you track all your resources meticulously. And finally, you have to actively plan for and mitigate the inevitable challenges that are gonna pop up. Let's just double-click on that second step for a moment because it is so important. You can't just pile a massive divestiture on top of everyone's normal day job. It doesn't work. The DMO has to make some really tough calls to pause or even cancel other projects. Why? It's the only way to free up your best and brightest, your subject matter experts who are absolutely essential for a successful separation. And, managing people through all this is tricky. You face this thing called key resource liability, basically making sure the experts who are leaving for the new company stay engaged and transfer all their critical knowledge before they go. If that knowledge walks out the door too early, key things can break. You also have to worry about retention and morale for the people who are staying, because burnout is a huge risk that can throw your entire timeline off track. And now we get to the big reveal, Phase 4, launching the kickoff. This is that pivotal moment when the small, secret planning team finally brings the wider execution team under the tent. This is where the confidential plan transforms into a company-wide mission. It's also where one tiny miscommunication can create months of confusion. The best kickoffs are run with almost military precision. They happen within hours of the public announcement to stop rumors and confusion. They're held in person, if possible, to make sure everyone gets the exact same message. And they're totally action-oriented, with breakout sessions designed to start solving problems right there on the spot. So the very first thing you have to get right is the guest list. Who absolutely needs to be in that room? Well, basically everyone who matters. You need the leadership and the key decision makers from every single function involved. We're talking finance, HR, IT, legal, the whole shebang. Getting the right audience is just non-negotiable. And what do you tell them? The content has to be crystal clear. You have to focus on the core mission, the objectives of the split, the guiding principles for making decisions, the high-level timeline, and crucially, the governance structure, so everyone knows exactly who is responsible for what. The kickoff is over. The mission is public. Welcome to Phase 5, the first month of action. This right here is where the rubber meets the road, and all of that careful planning starts turning into actual, tangible progress.
The first 30 days are a total whirlwind of structured activity. Week 1 is all about mobilizing, getting the teams officially up and running. Week 2 is assessment, digging in to deeply understand how things work today. By week 3, you're already defining the future state. And by the end of week 4, you're creating detailed blueprints and project plans for day 1. It moves fast.
But it's really important to remember, this first month isn't the whole project. Not even close. It's about laying a rock-solid foundation. The quality of the work that gets done in these first 30 days will literally determine the success of the entire months-long separation project that follows. And does this playbook actually work? Well, a Fortune 100 global payments processor followed this exact model for one of the largest splits in its industry. And the result? Despite incredible complexity across more than 30 countries, they achieved an issue-free legal day 1. That right there is the power of a well-executed plan. So there you have it, the secret playbook for deconstructing a company. It's this masterful blend of secret planning, meticulous budgeting, and incredibly precise execution. Which, leaves us with one final thought. If your company announced a major split tomorrow, now that you've seen the playbook, what would be your first move?